Hey there, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. Hello, piano teachers. If you have ever considered expanding the offerings in your music studio, possibly even beyond music, today's episode is for you. As you know, I usually talk with piano teachers on the podcast, although I've occasionally branched out to talk to a singer or an instrumentalist about a topic that relates to music teaching. But today I have something different for you. I'm talking with a visual artist who has a whole system and curriculum for how music and dance teachers can offer art classes in their studios. I hope you'll listen with an open mind because I think it's a really fascinating idea, and I loved talking with Lauren. Lauren Kushins is the co-founder with Benji Kushins of Art Fundamentals and Art and Soul School of Creative and Performing Arts. Her background is in using the arts to teach community well-being. She has traveled internationally, providing social services through the use of the arts. Her bachelor's degree and master's work focused on using the arts in the social service sector. Art and Soul School has provided educational arts to over 20,000 students in the Bay Area over the past 22 years, and she has been an arts educator for over 30 years. In addition, in 2019, she co-founded Art Fundamentals, an art program and curriculum for music and dance studios to help build their studio business and bring more art to children. Here's my interview with Lauren. Hi, Lauren. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to be speaking with you today. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little about your business?
Absolutely. Hi, Rachel. I'm excited to be here today as well. So, Art Fundamentals is an art program that is exclusively designed for music and dance studio owners. And it is currently including curriculum for ages 3 to 14 years old. And we do plan on expanding that as well over time. It also includes not only just the curriculum, but includes marketing tools. And it also has access to all the supplies that you need. So you can buy your supplies through us, or you can buy your own supplies. And it is a no mess, easy art program that can quickly grow your customer base.
I love this idea of combining art and music. I myself have no artistic ability, I have to say, but I so admire what artists, like visual artists, do. So can you tell us a little bit about where this idea came from to add art to music and dance studios?
Yes, of course. So the idea actually started a long time ago when I fell in love with my husband, because he is a musician and I'm a visual artist. And that was, around 27 years ago. He was going to just kind of do his music school thing. And I was like, I want to run an art center. And I was like, maybe we should do this thing together. And, so at first we kind of did our own thing. I ran an art school, he did a music school, and then we joined forces and we first taught in the schools. And then eventually we opened our own art center. And now we have over 700 students. And along the way, we also added dance to it. So now we do art, music, and dance. And then along the way, around 2019, we're like, we should actually sell Art Fundamentals so that other music and dance studios can also have this success. And so that's why we created Art Fundamentals.
Wow. It was a match made in heaven, huh? I love that. I really had no idea that was the story behind it, that it was you and your husband who came together as a musician and artist. That's so interesting. I love it. So tell me, why do you think art is such a good fit for music studios?
Sure. So our offering art classes for your families is giving them just another creative option for their children. So often families will come to you and say that their child is creative already. So art is just another easy add-on service. And in addition to that, they also, most of them have siblings. And some of them are taking music, but then some of them are just dragging along, right? When they come there. And oftentimes those siblings might not be into music, but then you're like, oh, but we also do art. And I'm not kidding. Most of the time they're like, oh, I'll try the art class for my other kid because they're just sitting there, right? In the lobby waiting for you. So that is just like an instant sell right there. And then also you have those kids that will take both music and art. So that is just an easy one right there in addition, right? That with that. Also, the other is that there's just so many wonderful benefits of art. As you know, for music, they're the same benefits for art. The big thing I think that doesn't get, I mean, there's brain benefits, which every music teacher knows, right? But the other big thing for art, visual art, is there's so many mental health benefits, visual arts. And this happens also with anyone who does group classes in general already for music, is that the piece with group classes is you have so many social emotional pieces that are added in group classes. You have all of that bonding that happens and all that peer development that happens and all of that, those social skills that are built. It helps in so many areas for that, that kid's self-esteem, all those life skills that are being built. And then all of that just also builds right into their school, and it helps them in school. It helps them with their social development in school, which also helps them with their test scores. Like all of it does connect. And so you can weave any of that into your marketing.
Yeah, you're so right. I love that idea of the siblings coming alongside and taking art while the other siblings are doing music. I would love it if you could tell me a little bit more about your school. You said you have over 700 kids. Can you tell me kind of the breakdown of how many are doing music, if you know, how many are doing art, kind of what it looks like on a day-to-day basis?
In terms of art, about 200 of them are art students. And then in terms of the crossover, about 15% of those art students are also taking music or dance.
Tell me, are there some simple ways that teachers could add art into their studios without going all in like you have and converting to an art and music school? I'm just thinking of like the school that I'm at where we have a really small space and it might not be practical to have group art classes going on. Are there simple ways that music teachers can use art and get these same benefits of mental health and brain development and all of that?
So in general, you can just take this program at your own pace. It's completely scalable. So lessons are built at a no mess program. So that is like the biggest thing I want to get across is that I literally created art fundamentals specifically for music and dance studios, knowing what their space looks like. I know what a music room looks like. Most of the time it's carpeted. And I know that a dance room, most of the time it has Marley on it. So I'm like, okay, these dance floors and these music floors can't get dirty. So how can I create an art studio program where it's not going to get messy? And so I've specifically created lesson plans where you're not going to have big spills and you don't even need a sink to run this program. Right. Mind blowing, right? So I have basically kind of custom created which are the most well-rounded lesson plans so that you can teach that program. And even with that all being said, so you get the curriculum and then you can still pick and choose what you want to teach. And you can choose how fast you go. You can choose how many kids you have. You can choose the class size. So like, if you want, you can keep it super small. It's your school, it's your program. You can decide that. In addition to our studio where we have 700 students, we also teach in the schools. And we've been doing that for, I don't remember, 25 plus years. We have taught in everything from a library to almost a janitor's closet. So, I mean, we know what it's like to teach in alternative spaces, shall we say? What it means to be a no mess program and how to custom build that. And if you do our program, I work with you and I do a Zoom with you initially, and I help you kind of custom make it to your space and talk you through ways to make it fit in your space.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to talk a little about the business side of this and how adding art to a studio can actually make a studio more profitable. Can you talk a little about that and what you've experienced?
So in terms of the profit, we were talking earlier how I had said like that 15%, that piece is like the easy um, piece of marketing. You have those customers already, and it's an easy, you just tell them, you're going to now have this program, and they're already in your current customer base, and they're just excited to kind of join, right? They already have the siblings there, or their kid already likes art. So it's no extra marketing that you're going to be doing, really. So that is kind of an easy way to kind of bring in new students and build up from a business point of view your income. And then in terms of other business logistics, you already have the systems, like whatever your billing system is, whatever your scheduling system is. If you use Opus, My Music Staff, whatever that is, you can use the same systems, right? This is a set fee that you use, a set monthly fee that you charge. It is weekly classes. They come in terms of it's billed monthly, it's weekly classes. So a lot of it is very similar to your music classes and private lessons that you charge. So it's not a whole different, it's not like you're doing meat and potatoes and then vegetables, right? Like it's just apples and oranges, that kind of thing. So in terms of the business part there. And then in addition to that, group classes, like if you're just doing private lessons, group classes just on paper bring in more money. So just in that, like it'll help bring up your bottom line just from that point of view, just because you have one teacher and multiple kids bringing in multiple streams of revenue, right? So you have that. Another thing is that if you have once you have new families coming in for art, because they come in just because they want the art, they're going to be coming in and with one kid interested in art, and then they're going to have siblings. Well, what if one of those siblings wants music, right? So you just brought in another revenue stream on that level. So, I mean, it can build your business in that way. And then also, once you start doing this, you can now market yourself as an arts school. And then you can charge a premium for being an arts school. So we've had schools that have gone from Opus School of Music to Opus Arts Academy kind of thing, because now they're doing more than one arts that they're offering to the community. And like we'll offer in our area that we're like, in terms of our studio program doing art, music, and dance, that we are the largest arts center in all of Northern California, because what we can offer, and our parents call us a one-stop shopping place. They come and they can do that one thing. And it is truly, such a gift for them to be able to just sit down and read a book while multiple siblings are doing multiple things. Another revenue stream from a business point of view is like you said for yourself, going what you do with your business is that you can go into the schools and teach. So it's another revenue. And when schools hear that you can offer, because one of the modalities that we do in art is we do clay. So it's a medium that we do. And when they hear that, but it's a no mess, air dry clay. When they hear that you offer clay, the teachers just aren't doing this in the schools right now. They're just not offering clay in the classroom. When they hear that you can offer clay, I mean, they just will be, yes, how do I pay for that? And depending upon where you're located, your music studios, some, like in the state of California, there's bond money right now that is just out for grabs, and the schools are just eating it up in terms of wanting to pay extra to bring in outside vendors for arts classes. So I know you're a podcast, so you're international. So, I mean, anyone, I don't know what the funding is for the schools, but that is a possibility based on where you're located. So there's so many different ways that your business can grow.
Okay, so I have to ask, would this be a separate art teacher teaching these classes, or is it the music teacher teaching the art classes?
I always get this question. Every studio handles this differently, and I would say about half go one way and half go the other. My recommendation is to always start by asking your teachers on staff if anybody feels comfortable or if they even have any inclination towards visual arts. Because when I'm hiring, I have a staff right now of over 50, and I would say at least half of my staff, when they come in, they'll come in wanting to be a music teacher. And the first question I ask is, and do you think you could teach, if they, let's say they come in wanting to teach music, I'll say, and do you think you can teach art or dance? They have no idea I'm going to ask that question when they walk in. At least half of them end up teaching art or dance. And they have no idea when they come in that I'm going to ask that question. And it's because creatives are creative. And in order to teach this program, you just have to be good with kids. So if what I always say is that and ours is broken down into age levels. So we have a 3 to 5, a 6 to 9, and a 10 to 14. So let's say you're really good with 3 to 5-year-olds. In my personal opinion, if you are really good with 3 to 5-year-olds, I can teach any teacher to teach this program. But you have to be really good with 3 to 5-year-olds. If you don't like 3 to 5-year-olds, you're never going to be good with that, even if you're the most wonderful artist, because you have to be a good teacher, right? We know that as teachers. So teaching is first, being able to connect with the kids is first. And in terms of the art part, our lesson plans are laid out step by step with pictures for every step. So you can literally follow the pictures and the directions right underneath it. So it's really step by step. And if you're like yourself, you're like, and my husband is the same way. He's like, I have no skill in my body. I have no artistic skill, nothing. And I'm like, babe, I could have you teach the 3 to 5 class. No problem. You're fantastic with little kids. So it's just, it has to do with if he might not go beyond 3 to 5 because that would be his confidence cutoff, because it has to do with your mental capacity to take it on. But most of my teachers, it's just like, do you feel comfortable being in the room? Because you have to be, you have to have the confidence to do it. But in terms of the lesson plans, they are, there's literally a picture for every single step.
Okay, I'm going to trust you on that. I still don't think I could do it, but I'm sure there are many music teachers out there who would be able to teach the 3 to 5s or the.
And I'm always willing to send a free lesson plan to somebody if they want to look at it, to say, hey, can I see this, to see if I could do it? If you're like a solo teacher and you're just wanting to know, could I take this on?
Let's talk logistics a little bit. I know that a lot of music schools have a really tightly scheduled programming already, especially like right after school. Everybody wants that right after school time, right? So logistically, how do you add the art classes into a schedule that's already packed full of music classes?
Logistics are always a Tetris game.
Yeah, for sure.
So I do kind of help you. So if you want, so I'm there to help you kind of set up your initial schedule, and I can look at it. And often schools do have some kind of scheduling program that they work with, right? So we can kind of share screens and look at your scheduling program, and I can help you with that. But one thing I always say is that if you can take yourself out of the you space and put yourself in the parent space, the way you're going to make the most profit on the situation is if you can, from the parent point of view, if they can get their child in back-to-back classes, they're going to sign up. So if one of two things, if they are coming for one child, if they can do music lesson into an art class, or if they have siblings, if their siblings can take classes back to back. So if you're looking like that, and I do have a front desk team, and that's what they do all day long is scheduling, right? So they're working on that. They're looking at the computer screen and they're moving things around to try to get the teachers to line up things to do back to back. And they're working on the Tetris game.
Yes, it is definitely a Tetris game. And so are the art classes are going on simultaneously with music lessons, it sounds like.
Yes, but we're on a larger scale, but you can do it on a smaller scale. So if we're talking just a solo teacher, you would just be realistic. If it's just you would have two options. One, if I'm going to do it, if I'm you, for instance, if I'm going to do it, then when are my gaps? And if my gaps are, let's say, I have a gap at 6:00 on Tuesday night, then I'm going to throw in a class then. Or I have Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. I'm going to throw in those two gaps and I'm going to give it a whirl. And so you could go there and you could see that. Or the other option is if you're like, I'm not going to teach this and I'm going to see if I have somebody else who wants to teach this, then you could just see if there's another, but then you have to do the room thing because now you have to see if there's another space because now there's two of you, if there's another space for the other person to teach in. So you have to then see if you have a space for a second person or a second room.
So you've shared about how successful you and your husband's school has been. Could you share a success story of another music studio that has added in art and done well with it?
So I was sharing a little bit earlier about Opus School of the Arts, how they had started with they were Opus Music Academy, and then how they now, not only did they add art, but they also added dance. So they went and they added both modalities. And they started in the summer. And so they started with summer camps. So they did art camps first. So that was one thing that they did. And then they also did an art show. So we always talk about how art shows are really helpful, kind of help promote your programs and help promote to the families and show off what the kids have been doing. And also it's another big self-esteem booster for the kids, right? They get to feel good about what they've been doing. And it's kind of like your music recitals. So that's, your time for your kids to shine. So they have already done an art show and they've already done summer camps and they've already changed their name and been a big, so I feel like they've had a lot of success. And then another school, Myriad School of Music and Dance, they haven't changed their name yet, but they have added in the art programming because they first started as music, then they added dance, and now they've added art. I feel like their two big ways of success that they have had is that when they first started, what they did was they started a wait list before they opened classes, and because they had current students already, and so they promoted to their current students and on their Facebook and their socials, and they got a long list of students lined up for the classes in those Tetris spots that they could fit. And they, again, only had like the weekends, I think, open. And so they just opened some weekend classes and they got their students listed for that. And so that was really helpful. So when they opened the classes, they actually already had enrollment. So that was really helpful for them. And then I feel like they are killing it on their social media. I'm just like constantly, I'm like, I need to follow them. Like they're so impressive. They're constantly putting reels up and videos up, and they're just so impressive. They're just doing such a great job with showing off everything they're doing.
Yeah, it does give great content, right? All these visual pieces. Sometimes as music schools, it's like, well, how many pictures of a kid playing a piano can you put up, right? But with the art piece, it's like a whole nother content area that you can post. So you've talked a little about your curriculum. I would love to hear exactly what a teacher would need as far as supplies, tables, things like that to make this happen.
Our curriculum has 4 different mediums that we went with when I was talking earlier about how I worked really hard to figure out what would work best in a music and a dance studio. So for the littles, the 3 to 5 year olds, there's 4 mediums. And then for 6 and above, it's only 3 mediums. So kind of depends on what ages you do. So the little guys do collage, and that's because I do have a background in the state standards. And so those little guys do need to learn how to cut. So we do collage. But then there's no cutting after that. Collage is just 3 to 5. And then everybody, including the littles, do watercolor, oil pastels, and air dry clay. And oil pastels might sound very messy to you, but there is a brilliant trick, and it is called baby wipes. So baby wipes will take oil pastels off of any table, will take them off of your hands, and you do not need a sink. So when you first hear, oil pastels, that sounds very messy. There's that. And then watercolors, the thing is, it is painting, but it's a very low mess painting. You can't really do art without painting, but it is the lowest amount of mess. It doesn't stain. And it's such a little pigment that it's and the trays of paint that we give you, they have like 32 different colors. So they get lots of different colors, but it's not going to spill and make a huge, and we always tell you put so little water in the water bowl so that it's not going to spill. And yes, you can get your water from the bathroom if you don't need to have a sink in the room. So there's that. And then in terms of what else you need, you're going to need some kind of table for the kids to do the work at, but you can get a folding table and you can put that folding table down when you do music. You can really make this work in a small space. You're going to need some kind of chairs for the kids to sit at. Some people do 2 sets of chairs for different ages if you have littles and bigs, but you can do stacking chairs for the littles and you can do folding chairs for the olders. So you can make that decision. You could decide to start the program with only one age. If your thing is littles, you could only start the program with littles. If your thing is older kids, you could do it only with the older kids. So, you could go either way or do both. But there is a way to, make those chairs stack in a corner or fold them up. So you just need that. And then there's 2 other things. One, you do need a drying rack, but you can get a small drying rack that either fits on a counter or can even fit over a door. And you can get these for less than $100 on Amazon. So it's not a huge expense, but because you're doing watercolors, you can't send them home with a wet painting. You do have to let them dry and have them come back the next week to take them home. Because you're going to have people who live in inclement weather who do this program, and parents will get upset if you're, having them get ruined on the way home. Yeah. And then the last thing is some kind of storage cabinet, but it doesn't have to be a large storage cabinet just because you're going to have to store some supplies from, week to week, but you can do it in small increments so that based on how much room you have.
Gotcha. What do you wish you would have known when you started on this journey back however many years ago it was?
I was thinking if, after, 30 plus years of being in this business, if I could go back and start all over again, I would say to myself, start with group classes. Start with group classes, and whatever you can do, start with group classes. And then my next piece of advice would be diversify and keep it simple. So there was one point where we were doing 10 different things because schools saw that we were reliable and responsible, and they asked us to do everything. And we got too diversified. Because we were just the yes man kind of thing. And so I would say, don't go down that rabbit hole, but stay true to who you are. But, some kind of diversification, because, we've been through fires, we've been through COVID, and diversification saved us. For instance, during COVID, music did not do well, but dance did translate outside. We could dance outside, and so we could have dance outside. Over Zoom, music did not do well, but art did phenomenal over Zoom. So that diversification piece was key to sustainability. So just those pieces of wisdom, if I were talking to my younger self going into business again. So, but group classes from a just financial point of view, because when we finally were able to afford to buy our own space, we built it so that we'd have all these private studios. And now we're like, oh, we should have had more group rooms.
That's really good advice. I'm really curious. What is your favorite age and medium to teach personally?
My favorite age is actually preschool. That's my training is with the littles, the 4 and 5-year-olds. And I've been doing that for over 30 years. I've obviously worked with all the ages, but that is kind of my favorite. And then medium wise, in terms of our program, it's probably doing the watercolor, what we call watercolor resist, which is where you do oil pastel and then or Sharpie, and then you paint over top of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so then it pops out. And then in my own personal artwork, because I have my own art studio, is I do large acrylic paintings with mixed media with nature inside of them. And I know you're over podcast, so they can't see, but you can see I have a painting behind me.
I can see. It's beautiful. Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to share about the program or curriculum or anything that I haven't asked yet?
I was just going to say one other thing about the curriculum is that in addition to the mediums, is that there's also an art history piece that they get woven in. So the kids do learn about master artists. So they, like Picasso, Georgia O'Keeffe, and then like Hokusai, like some artists that maybe you've not heard, but I do make sure it's like world balanced. So it's from all around the world that they're going to get different artists. And they learn, but it's in a fun way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if there's a way that you could combine like the music history and the art history piece together.
I do have a unit that's music and art. So they do. There is, because of what we do. So there is a music art unit.
Yeah, I bet there's all sorts of ways that you could combine the music and art components, doing the art show at the music recital and things like that.
We've done recitals where my art students will do fill the lobby with art.
I like that.
And then for our art shows, we'll have music performers at the art show.
Oh, that's great.
So we'll go both directions.
I really, really like this idea. I think it's always good to collaborate and include like the different types of arts as one unit. I think this is a really neat idea. If listeners are interested in learning more and perhaps connecting with you, where can they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. I'd love to connect with all of your listeners. So our website is artfundamentals.org. So they can reach me on there. You can also email me at info@artfundamentals.org. And then also all of your viewers, if they mention that they heard us through your podcast, we will give them $500 off their initial startup fee and another $30 off their monthly fee.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. All right. And we'll put all the links in the show notes as well. Lauren, it's been so nice to meet you and to hear about what you're doing with art, music, and dance. Thank you so much for taking time to be here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. It was so nice meeting you, Rachel.
Today's episode was a little different take on this month's topic of multi-teacher studios, but I wanted to bring you an out-of-the-box way that you could expand your studio offerings. If you're interested in learning more about the logistics of hiring teachers for your studio, Top Music has a new course inside of the membership called Recruit Right, the essential guide to hiring teachers. If you are already a member, be sure to check it out. And if you aren't a member, this might be a great time to join. That's the end of the show for this week. Next week on the podcast, we'll continue our series on multi-teacher studios with a chat with Katie Christ. I'm Rachel Herring, and you've been listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. I'll talk with you again soon.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.